Greetings, fellow adventurers, and welcome to the Couple of Nerds podcast. I'm DnDWife, the creator of DnDWifeStories.com, and your co-host. Joining me is the man behind the screen, my brilliant dungeon master, and also my husband, Eguile. Say hi, Eguile.
Hey everyone, excited to be here sharing our nerdy adventures with all of you.
Absolutely. So what's Couple of Nerds all about? Well, we're diving into the realms of Extraeus, sharing our experiences, playing D&D in our apartment, and exploring the intricate tapestry of relationships both in and out of the game.
And we got some exciting segments for you all, from lore deep dives to crafting tips, artwork showcases, and relationship advice on and off the table. We've got a little bit of everything for every kind of adventurer.
So whether you're a seasoned adventurer or a tabletop newbie, we invite you to join us today. Tune in, relax, and enjoy the magic of Couple of Nerds. May your rolls be natural 20s and your adventures be legendary. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 13 of Couple of Nerds. I'm your host, DnDWife, and with me is my co-host, Dungeon Master and husband, Eguile.
How's it going, everyone?
Hello, hello. And today we have also our recurring special guest, EntLynk, our artist. Welcome, welcome. So today we're just going to be discussing briefly one of our characters for our Comic Cave segment. We're going to be talking about Bogbean. And we're going to be talking about how you created a little turnabout sketch of her, what she looks like from a 360 standpoint. I think that's going to be super fun to explore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, on my end as like a dungeon master, it's always kind of that, we build characters together and, we always kind of have, and before your arrival at my table, we would always just kind of find a picture that closely resembled the character and be like, okay, this is it, but it also is a different color of blue, but this is kind of the blue it is, and but it's not big. And so it was really hard to kind of get that visualization of the characters until you luckily joined our table. And now we have much more life being given to both the new characters and also our previous characters from Campaign 1.
Mm-hmm. We're having some awesome portraits done of kind of both sets. So that's been a project that's been ongoing.
Yeah. Which is what's kind of started it all and kind of got me interested. Like, oh, maybe this is a cool thing. And you guys put me to the test with the Dragonborn. If I could do that, then I could hack it.
I think that's what we told. Yeah, I was like, this is kind of probably going to be the hardest part of it. Like, elves is, spiked ears and they're pretty, but a Dragonborn and scaling and that facial to give kind of expression to characters that are probably hard to have expressions in their natural life, in their way they're designed.
Yeah, exactly. And then hands are hard enough as it is, not to mention scaled hands with claws and how you're supposed to make that look natural. Mm-hmm. So that was definitely a tough one.
So we really wanted to give a chance for you EntLynk to really kind of go and give us kind of the details into like what it takes to kind of not only create a character as a D&D player, but also go and then as a digital artist and create that character and bring that character to life.
Yeah, it was, I know at first I needed to know my like race and class kind of. Like I definitely started there conceptually, but from there I had to see visually. Like that's how I process. That's how I, work out all the details. I don't really intellectualize it all, or I'm not at the level yet as a new player that I can be like, oh, I'm looking at my stats and that's how I would translate the physical aspects. Like this is purely just kind of vibes based right now.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things I explained to you when we were building your character too, is that you also had the luck of a newbie and you rolled amazing beginner stats.
I had great luck.
You had great luck.
Awesome.
So, but you were trying to be like, well, I don't want to be this cutesy character, but like my charisma is 16. Like I'm really charismatic. And I had to kind of explain to you, it's like, well, no, there can be different interpretations. And so it's more of like, you're kind of lulling people into the sense because you're this small little creature that can be cute, but also can throw a bus. And so it's like looking at it more of like you're charismatic in the way that you can kind of give this false sense that you have charisma, but really your character doesn't really know half the time what's going on around them in terms of like intellectual conversation or anything like that.
It ended up being exactly that way after our first session. Those mannerisms and getting into actually playing the character, that ends up kind of informing the flavor of all of those numbers in the game. So I'm really happy with how
you
it
end up
turned out.
finding a way to show like her strength without making her like a big beefcake or anything.
Yeah, and like you said, it works, and like you know, I guess it comes with being a DM. Like, you're so good at kind of squirreling it away where it's like, it's whatever you want, but it works.
Yeah.
Plus, I also find there's like the little extra caveat, and I don't know if you guys see it or the way I interpret it, but like I see a lot of times there are little nuanced things in each one of your characters and how you explain it, where each one of you kind of are also represented within your character. Little features and traits that you all share are also kind of projected within your characters, sometimes more subtle than others. But there are kind of always little nods to the actual player's kind of appearance within their character. Do you find yourself kind of sometimes doing that, not even knowing you're doing
without even thinking about it? And some people won't correct me and they let me just interpret this character, which, you know, it works because obviously I'm seeing them at the table, and like I do see so much of them in their characters. So.
I mean, I think it's great because eventually it could be like, you know, if we get real up there, you know, you guys all can cosplay as your characters.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really cool.
And some of us
so
do.
Cool.
But I mean, in that aspect, like, I mean, how many versions do you think there are now of Bogbean?
Oh, well, we're really lucky right now. We have a couple versions with, I got my first fan art from a friend, Jamie. And that was actually really cool because I was turning to the other players and I was like, is this how you guys feel? Like all the time? Like, I love this so much. And just seeing somebody else's like outside perspective, I guess, from my little murder hobo.
Yeah, it's nice to see the love from elsewhere other than yourself, right? Like, you love your character, but you made her, you're kind of stuck loving her. But when other people are really enthralled by them so much so that they're willing to put some effort into creating a piece of art just to share it with you, I think is super fun.
I mean, Luna, how many interpretations do you think there are that you created for Luna before she came really into session 1 and came to become something real?
I mean, she didn't even really start with the way she is now. I was going to create a completely different character. and then as I kind of went through what I actually wanted out of everything, it evolved into Luna. And you know, you're kind of right, EntLynk, after the first session, it really just kind of solidifies and you understand a little bit of who you're going to be for that campaign.
Yeah, I think before, like you were saying, Bogbean was nothing like she is now. Like she was definitely not as like innocent and childlike. She was definitely way more animal.
Way more feral.
The original art, was much more, seemed like a much more aggressive creature that was, you know, which I was like, okay, she's really going to go into the barbarian aesthetic and just like, this is going to be some little ravenous creature that's just attacking anything on sight.
Like a wild child that was raised by wolves,
which
kind
is
of thing.
totally not exactly like the current Bogbean, but you know,
it's a little twist.
It's
on
little
it.
nods.
It's a different kind of savagery that Bogbean has. It's not so ravenous and feral anymore.
Yeah, but like we all kind of, like you said, like they create themselves at a point once we get down to it.
Yeah, and I think too, the big thing for me is like a DM, and when you guys have the character, I also love it because I feel like having that character expression in front of you also helps you really get into what your character is. It's like, you know, their size dimensions now compared to other characters. It's like, it's not like, okay, well, in real life, I'm taller than this person, so I really can't imagine that their character is taller than me. But now you're like, well, no, I've seen the comics. My character is small. You know, so it really helps, I think, get more immersive into your character because now you're like, I see the face of who I'm playing.
Yeah, when you're like, oh, okay, so that's who I am. I can see them and I can picture them in my head and I can become them. It just helps, I think, make playing a little more immersive.
Yeah, and I think the big kind of impact for especially you and I, and this was without your knowledge, is that first time you drew Luna, where originally we had always seen, like, you know, you had drawn Bogbean, and so it's like, okay, well, she's gonna draw her. You know, it totally makes sense. No one expected you to draw anyone else.
Yeah.
And then it was one of your doodles that you shared on our Discord, and it was this kind of rough sketch of Luna that we had no idea you were doing, preparing, and it was one of those things where it totally changed the entire concept of that scene.
Oh, yeah.
Because now we got to see what Luna looked like with Bogbean in that interaction.
Which is so special to me, I have to say, because, like, that's just where I was. Like, I was having trouble, like, with the concept of D&D in general, where it's like, okay, like, it's all in your head, right? But like, that's how I process it now. It's how I have to see it. And so like I just saw the image in my head. I'm just like, okay, like I need this.
I have to recreate it. Yeah.
It makes it real in a sense. And like it is, so that is really my hook for immersion. So to see that it benefits you guys as well is like
100%.
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. When I first saw that first drawing of Luna, I was just like, that's exactly what she's supposed to look like. Even if it is just a rough sketch so far. I mean, that's exactly what she's made of.
Which is great because all of those little doodles are fueled by the emotions that you're feeling at the table, because that's so real.
Yeah.
And, you know, Bogbean doesn't know what to do with the spotlight because, you know, Luna's just like, oh, hey, I recognize you. Don't know where, but I'm so excited about it. And Bogbean's like, what? Whoa.
And just brought to life that scene, which is what's so awesome about it.
It really did. It made everything look really interesting because it's like Luna's smiling down at you, but you don't realize that, like, yes, she's being kind, but it's also like the scientist in her being like, ooh, interesting subject.
She has no concept. She's just like, I have all this attention. Why?
Everyone wants to be my friend. Yay.
Obviously, you know, getting the backstory, getting kind of the idea of the character is like super important. And like as a DM, I totally understand that. But then moving on from just this idea, this concept, where is kind of the first start in getting that character now on paper or on digital graphics or, you know, paint or whatnot? Like, what is the best way to get kind of started?
So it's important to understand like how your foundation is set up. And references are a really important thing for it, as well as modeling. I think those two things together combine to create really great portraitures, as well as just scenes in general. Let's say you're like the comic that we work on, that requires a little bit of storyboarding and building with different assets, as you call them.
100%. You want to like kind of map things out first before you commit. But that's what's really helped in like the introductory portraits for each character. You had the great idea of doing kind of like a 3-point turn, where it's kind of showing them from most angles so that you can kind of standardize how you want the design to look. Yeah. And the 3D has helped a lot in just kind of like, okay, I can get this kind of the way that I need. Everything's like the right proportions. I just have to turn it. Yeah. And then that way I don't have to like, you know, think it's so hard and have trial and error like just on my own 2 feet with doing this perspective. Like I can make sure that it's kind of mapped out and then fill in the rest.
Gotcha.
But yeah, the 3D assets on Clip Studio, at least that I'm familiar with, have been a really great help in drawing things that I'm not so used to drawing, like wagons and such. Or they help with like magic poses, like you can download already articulated models.
Oh, nice.
Since my computer's not very strong enough for me to manipulate 3D modeling software like that. Gotcha. People upload it themselves, and it's been a really great help. I'm not sure because if you've ever played around with the 3D stuff.
Yeah, a little bit. I've seen the ones where you can articulate it yourself, and I've tried that out, but I didn't know that people would like upload their already articulated 3D models so that you could just have the set like modeling that you need, and you could just go off of that. I thought that is a really cool thing.
Yeah, it's a really cool community thing that they have, and especially since it's I think they also will put out stuff on like proportions. Like I think I saw a pack where it's like halfling, elf, and like barbarian kind of musculature.
That's cool.
Which it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, but you know, community feature for sure. Depends on what's available to you.
I like that. I like that a lot, especially because we do you do a lot of the portraiture for us, and we have all sorts of different species, short, tall, everything. So it's really helpful to have those assets. And I think with references, it's the same thing because I've been working on more of the scenery aspect. So you need, you know, references for trees, water, things that you don't normally think about when you're drawing or painting, but that are sometimes really difficult to recreate. Water is one of those things where it's very volatile. It just by nature, it doesn't really fit a shape unless you have it sitting very still inside a container. If it's an ocean, you're going to have a lot of dynamic movement, and you have to somehow convey that in a random pattern because nature is random. So if people see a pattern, it doesn't look like nature.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the unique aspects of like landscapes and backgrounds and such is where you want it to be like subtle and like broad stroked, because like the simple is best, but then you need that reference to get that shade or like the way the shadow is laying or that like subtle effect just right, because the human mind can only do so much.
Yeah.
So do yourself a favor.
I will say the human mind is very powerful. We can convince ourselves of a lot of things visually, but it can get tough sometimes if you're not following the correct
when you're
line.
trying to get like a really specific mood or specific look, and yeah, you can compile like what I do is I'll compile like a mood board almost, and I'll set it to a different layer and lower the opacity. So that way all of my ideas are kind of like there but not there. They're on the side for me to pull from.
Transparent in the background. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, do you ever like get kind of stuck between like what kind of like reference? Like, I mean, obviously like D&D kind of plays this kind of it's real yet it's not real, and I've noticed some of your art that we have is more kind of towards the realistic and slightly realistic. Is that like more difficult, or is it just like you're trying to keep like a uniform aesthetic?
I think you're calling out my perfectionism a little bit there.
Not intentionally, but
no, but it's actually funny, and it's a topic that's like hard to bring up is like style sometimes. Like I'm not sure if you struggle with this, or not struggle is the wrong word, but you deal with this with landscapes because there's a degree of realism and I guess cartooniness. I don't even want to say that, but like a stylization, realness and stylization. So like I've been actually noticing with the comics and stuff, when I really get frustrated fixating on like a perfectionist, like realist thing, if I just throw that out the window and draw it in like a cartoony, flowy, like, confident lines, like type of way, it comes out so much more like with movement. Like it's just more striking than if I like sat all day trying to get like, I don't know, a leather jacket right or whatever. But like striking lines and stuff has actually been something I'm moving more towards. Like I want to kind of embrace that and maybe find a good middle ground.
I mean, DnDWife and I sometimes get into, discussions and heavy discussions about certain aspects. And a lot of times, she'll be like, well, this is not how it works. And this is what not necessarily how it would work in the real world. But I always just kind of do the whole, well, in Extraneous it does. So I feel like you should put that a little too, hey, have that freedom to where if you want to have a little more kind of freedom to change certain proportions, dude, be my guest.
Yeah, add a little Salvador Dali into that, make things melt.
No, that's cool. I definitely agree. And it's like, as I make more art, I'm like critiquing it more, obviously. Like, that's what we artists do. That's what anyone does with their own work. But the more I see that, the more I'm seeing like what you're saying. It's like, hey, this might being a little looser with it will help out.
Yeah.
On all fronts.
Oh, absolutely. Like for me, while I really appreciate the realistic painters and artists, they did a wonderful job. I'm more of an impressionist person myself. I love the impressionist painters just because you can convey the realism of a thing with symbology. And I think that is a little bit of an easier bridge between the imagination and the canvas. And then you can move on to realism once you're uncomfortable. But I think starting with an impressionist sort of art style is really helpful to kind of bridging the gap between the two.
100%. It calls me back to an oil painting class that I took, a studio class. And that was one of the hardest things to get through my head was that the impression of a thing, the suggestion of a thing, of a form, is all you need. You don't need it to be exactly like, because that's also what's important with reference, is because when you're in your head, you're thinking of all sides of a thing because you're conjuring the thing. But the reference is just that image and that's just what you want. So it kind of helps you focus and you draw what you see and observe and not what you know is there.
Exactly.
It's such a hurdle.
Yeah, you're not trying to recreate everything specifically.
Obviously, as what I know you artists love is asking about current works and current projects. I know it's your favorite thing, but any status updates on the challenge, the water study you guys were putting forth, that way we can let the listeners know.
I was able to see some sneak peeks of your beautiful work if you want to.
I've done like half of the water challenge. So I did the stormy sea part of it. It's a really beautiful bluish green. And then the day one is going to be more green than blue, but it's still going to have a little blue in it. So I finished half, and then the other half is coming. So I'll probably post that first stormy sea here in the Discord in a little bit.
What about you, EntLynk? How much progress have you gotten?
I have been so busy. You say you're only half done, but you are 100% doing more than I am. I've thought about it though.
Hey.
Like I've thought about the composition and I do feel like that's something, something's brewing in there.
Oh,
but
yeah, it always helps to think about it first.
And I feel like you guys run into like the same issues where it's like, yeah, I got these plot lines, they're in my head. I'll write them down eventually.
Yeah, I got like 10 in there.
And then usually it's like 30 minutes before the session, I'm writing them down. What did that look like? What was that name I picked?
I'm glad it's not just us.
It was so good.
Yeah, no, it's yeah. So I always kind of figure it's that same thing, but I feel like it's about getting there and not really rushing it, because no one wants to rush your project.
No, and I think rushing it just kind of robs both the artist and the people who might view it of the potential of that artwork. I'll wait 15 years for a masterpiece if it means it'll make me cry because it's so beautiful I can't even fathom it. I'll wait.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, and that also gives plenty other people to hopefully have some time too if they wish to join in.
Yeah,
and
totally.
submit to
It's not over.
the Estrellas Project Discord on the Comic Cave page. Hopefully we'll see some other people.
Absolutely.
But they
We'd
probably
love to
know they
see
have
it.
plenty of time to get their submissions
totally.
in.
Yeah, there's no real deadline, everybody.
Nah.
I mean, I'm not the most artistic person, but I'm obviously trying to learn and gather more skills. So I've now ventured into a new artistic endeavor myself with you, DnDWife, and that we're going to try our hand now at airbrushing.
Yes, that's a new foray I'm looking forward to, just because I think airbrushing might alleviate some of the time constraints that miniature painting takes up.
Well, I figured, I think I was telling you where I was like, well, look, you're trying digital artistry and that's something new for you. So I was like, I'll try something new.
Yeah, we're all trying to level up our artistic skills.
I have zero dexterous hand skills, so we'll see how those results, and I'm sure I'll share what I try to do.
He says this, people, but mind you, he has a perfect grade Gundam that he's worked on and put together by him damn near self.
I mean, that's different than paint. I don't paint them, but the other reason too is I just I know that obviously you guys and all the art and everything you have, it's such a time consuming project, and so it's one of the things that I'm hoping to help you with these mini paints and other kind of terrain pieces that we can both, and then you, EntLynk, as one of my players, can kind of experience that. We can get a little bit more put out and be more efficient because our backlog of minis is just ever growing.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah, now another one of my players has a 3D printer, which I know people out there think it's a great thing, and I love it, but at the same time, when you got more than one person printing out stuff, you just can't keep up.
Oh, there's so many unpainted miniatures in this apartment. I can't.
But we'll be sure. Obviously, I'll try to by the next Comic Cave give my little rookie knowledge and experience that I've had with. I've been trying to find some good pages. So if there's anyone that has some advice for me, also out there, anybody that has airbrush skills, send it out to the Comic Cave. Send some YouTube videos my way. That way I can kind of get a little idea of what I'm getting my toes in before I actually jump in the pool.
Yeah, please post them on the Discord. Let us know if you have any special tidbits of advice. We'd love to hear from you.
I mean, how is coming with learning now the digital medium? I mean, you've had now a couple months now working with your tablet. And getting help from EntLynk and certain advice.
It's fun. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos on how to set up specifically Clip Studio Paint, just because it's a very intricate, very immersive piece of equipment. And so I do need to learn some of it. And I still haven't grasped like the full concept, but I think I'm finally starting to understand layers.
I'm so proud of you.
I'm so proud.
I know, because you're always talking about how using layers and layers and layers. So she's been trying.
Everyone's different.
It's
There's
tough.
Honestly, there's a few artists I know of where they draw on one layer and they just paint. They go straight into color, and I'm just like, how you are God? Like, what the?
Right?
But yeah, like, I mean, I'll even see, like, there's whole forums about Clip Studio and any kind of like software. Like, even veterans or quote unquote are like people who've used the stuff for years have they're always discovering new features.
Still asking. There's always new programs coming out, new brushes, new techniques.
Yeah.
You know,
so it'll be cool
always.
to see, you know, a year or two from now, you're going to be like, oh, this other niche thing, and I'm doing all these other things, but like, wow, how did I not know about this?
I'm waiting
Right,
for when
we
you
might.
guys start making the cartoons of my campaigns, when the episodes start, the television show you guys
sure,
make, and then
sure,
the
yeah.
movie
Yeah,
you'll
of
make
course.
eventually.
Oh, totally.
Of my characters.
Of
I'm totally
course.
waiting for it.
Animate it all in CSP. Totally.
I mean, we could be the next Has Been Hotel. Who knows?
Of course.
Oh, we can dream.
All the wonderful dreams. But thank you so much for listening, guys. We really appreciate it. And we hope that you guys go to our Discord, show us your appreciation for our artwork, or just send us some of yours. We'd love to see what you can come up with for Extraeus, what you think of how the water looks, the people look. Any ideas you might have, we would appreciate to hear it.
Oh, yeah. And it's, you know, everyone. I mean, I'm sitting over here, probably the most rookie one of us all, who really has no artistic talent. But, you know, everyone can kind of put their 2 cents in, and everyone can show, because it really, I mean, just us looking at like the pictures we've made from when we first started to now, I mean, only in 4 or 5 years, they're totally don't even look like it's made by the same people.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to show us your early works, even stuff that's still half done, because we can give you that support, lift you to get you maybe more motivation to get it completed.
Totally. I mean, I post my works in progress all the time on, you know, my server and on our Comic Cave Discord. And that's kind of what it's like all about too, is like, it's, you don't want to, but it, like, I promise you, it's like good to show the ugly stages, because then there's proof of like, you know, the journey and how far you went with that piece. So
Yeah,
it's all
and
fun.
And you guys both also stream. Now, I know DnDWife, you're trying to get the tablet working with streaming, so hopefully you can start streaming your drawing sessions.
And I will try to get that up and running soon.
Oh, I mean, obviously, you know, we're still a work in progress, so we'll get there eventually. But obviously, with every single listener, it does help us grow. It does show us that there are people out there that want to listen to us. There are people out there that like us. But we only really know if you go out and you review, you put us as 5 stars, give us a like, put subscribe.
Yeah.
That shows us, as well as sharing and getting other people to join us, listen in, share with your coworkers, your friends, your family. We want everyone to kind of join into this community, because that's kind of the whole purpose of the Extraeus project.
Yeah, that's why we're creating Couple of Nerds, to build this community of nerds that can all kind of cohabitate together, share our ideas, share our artistic views. Thank you so much for everything, guys, and you have yourselves a good night. And that concludes today's journey through the realm of Couple of Nerds. We hope you had a blast exploring the intricate world of Extraeus. Don't miss out on the visual extravaganza over at our YouTube page at Couple of Nerds Podcast. It's where the magic comes to life with exclusive video segments, art previews, and a peek behind the curtain.
Dive deeper into our adventures by visiting DnDWifeStories.com, your haven for all our podcast transcripts and a treasure trove of content dedicated to the captivating universe of Extraeus.
Your unwavering support is our greatest treasure. Take a moment to weave your thoughts into a review and hit that subscribe button for an enchanting journey with Couple of Nerds.
Join us beyond the podcast in the Extraeus Project Discord. Connect with us, the creators, and even the travelers themselves. Witness the magic unfold in live drawing streams, game alongside us, and step into our digital tavern, the Bard's Haven. Share your stories and characters with fellow adventurers. Visit DnDWifeStories.com for the link to join our vibrant community.
Stay tuned for more tales, more laughs, and more insight into the world of tabletop gaming. Until then, may your dice be kind, your campaigns epic, and your adventures legendary.